My name is Avery Sloan, and I'm 38 years old. Competence is not glamorous. It's the spreadsheet that balances to the cent when no one is watching. The rent that clears before the late fee ever threatens. The running list on my phone that turns groceries into meals, and meals into a week that holds. I used to think love lived best in that same frequency. Steady, respectful, unspectacular in the way a foundation is unspectacular until the house leans. Evan Walker sparkled where I hummed. He's 34, recently promoted, the kind of man who can turn a Tuesday into an event and an Uber ride into a story he will later caption. In the beginning, he said my calm steadied him. I told myself that meant balance. For a long time, I believed it. We'd been together 4 years, living for the last 2 in a high-rise that photographed like aspiration. Concierge, rooftop pool, city pinned to glass like a postcard. The rent is $3,800 a month. I make about $195K base as a senior systems architect with bonuses that usually nudge me toward $240K. Not bragging, context. When we moved in, Evan was making $75K. He insisted on something that matches our success. His phrase. We split proportionally. I paid $2,900. He paid $900. I told myself it made sense. Ratios, fairness, team. Then came his new job 6 months ago. Senior marketing director at a tech startup. $125,000 base. For him, it was champagne. For our home, it was a minor earthquake. First week, can you believe I'm making 6 figures? Second week, successful people invest in themselves. Third week, he began correcting me about tech at dinners. I've been in systems 15 years. He'd been a director for a little over 20 days. The crack became canyon on a Thursday night. We were at dinner with his coworkers. Dim lighting, soft leather chairs, the kind of restaurant that turns a ribeye into a performance. Someone asked about our place. Evan leaned back and let the skyline do its work through the glass. "Oh, it's amazing," he said, voice dipped in charm. "Panoramic views, marble counters, the works. It really reflects where I am in my career now." A brunette across the table, later I'd learn her name was Bailey Trent, whistled. "Must cost a fortune." Evan laughed like a man pleased with his reflection. "When you make what I make, you can afford to live well." I didn't choke on my salmon. I chewed. I smiled. I folded the words like a note I would read later. The bill arrived. I put down my card. He didn't reach. In the Uber, my app, my receipt, city lights braided into the windows. I said softly, "That was interesting, the way you talked about the apartment." "What way?" His tone sharpened, like I'd stepped on something he was balancing. "You implied you pay for it." He turned that new look on me, the one that had moved in with his promotion. Condescension dressed as patience. "Avery, I make more than most people, 125, top 20%. "Right," I said, "but I pay 76% of our rent." He exhaled, theatrical. "God, you always make it about money. This is why I don't—" He cut himself off, then smiled the smile that photographs well. "Never mind." "Don't what?" He stared out the window. The city obliged him with a pause, then he said it. "I make more money than you think. Maybe I should date someone on my level. Someone who doesn't feel threatened by successful people. There are sentences you can't unsay. They live in the room like a third person." I watched his reflection in the glass, then said evenly, "Maybe you should." He thought he'd won. "I'm glad you understand," he said, and turned up the music. At 9:00 a.m. Friday, I was sitting in the leasing office when Denise Herrera, the property manager, unlocked the door. Denise knows me. I'm the name on every email, the signature on every form. "Avery," she said, kind but cautious. "Everything okay?" "I need to talk about our lease." She pulled up our file. I already knew what she'd find. My name on the lease, Evan listed as an authorized occupant, not a leaseholder. We'd done it that way because his credit was ragged when we moved in. Mine was an 812 then. I'd thought I was helping our future. "What are my options if I remove an authorized occupant and give notice?" I asked. Denise's eyes flicked from her screen to my face. "Relationship ending?" "Yes." "Understood," she read. "We require 60 days notice for termination. You can remove an authorized occupant immediately with proper documentation." She paused, scrolls humming. "Early termination is 2 months' rent, $7,600. Is our lease up for renewal soon? I asked. She clicked, then smiled with a kind of relief for me. 45 days. We sent the renewal last month. Perfect. I declined renewal on the spot. The relief that slid through my ribs felt like a rib snapping back into place. If he wants to take over, I said, keeping my voice clinical, what would he need to qualify? She pulled up the requirements, reading as if from scripture. Income at 3 times rent, $11,400 monthly gross, minimum 700 credit score. I did the math out loud for both of us. He makes $10,416 gross. Last I knew, his score hovered in the low sixes. Denise didn't gloat. He'd need a cosigner. Thank you, I said. Please note the file that I've declined renewal. I'll submit removal paperwork this afternoon. The lobby smelled like eucalyptus when I walked out. Across the street, a woman in a coral blazer laughed into her phone, and the sound made the morning look ordinary again. I sat in my car, the BMW, the one technically on my credit, and booked an appointment to see a one-bedroom I'd found the night before. $1,800. Still downtown, clean lines, no rooftop pool or concierge smile. It looked like a place where the utilities would always be paid on time because that's who lived there. That evening, Evan breezed in, wearing a new jacket that still held its store air. He kissed the air near my cheek and launched into a monologue about his presentation. The chief revenue officer said I have executive presence, he said, puffing, like the words could inflate the room. That's great, I said, and meant it the way you mean weather. He didn't notice the boxes in the office. He didn't ask about my day. We moved around each other all weekend like actors who'd lost their lines but kept hitting their marks. He slept in the guest room. He posted LinkedIn sermons about ambition and growth and choosing environments that rise to meet you. He photographed the skyline at sunset and captioned it, "Luxury is a mindset." Monday, I worked from home. Evan left in an $800 outfit he couldn't afford to pay off yet. The door clicked shut. I opened my laptop and began. Electricity, in my name, scheduled for shutoff on day 45. Internet, my account, disconnect on the same date. Streaming, every profile with his name removed. Gym, guest privileges canceled. I moved like a surgeon, steady hands, clean cuts. At 2:12 p.m. my phone buzzed. Evan, my card just declined at lunch with clients. WTF? Me. Must be a bank error. Try your debit. Evan, I'm with the CMO. This is humiliating. Me. Remember Thursday? You needed someone on your level. I'm giving you space to find him. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, returned. The call came next. I let it ring. Another call. 17 in a row. I turned my phone face down and finished my expense report, the small, quiet hum of my competence filling the room like an old friend. He came home furious, color high, eyes shiny. You humiliated me, he said. How? I asked. By not paying for a business lunch you know I'll be reimbursed for. Then have your company front it, I said, or wait until your corporate card is approved. This is financial abuse. No, I said, and felt something inside me set. This is financial independence. Congratulations. He opened and closed his mouth a few times, the words not fitting. Finally, the apartment is ours. The lease is mine, I said softly. You're welcome to stay as my guest for the next 45 days. After that, I'm moving out. You can apply to take it over if you'd like. He blinked. You're being ridiculous. We can work through this. Work through what? You telling me you need someone more ambitious, more successful, on your level? I was emotional. I didn't mean it. Which part? I asked. The part where you've been telling people you can afford this lifestyle, or the part where I'm beneath you? He tried a new tactic. Tears. I love you. What do I do for work? I asked. You work in tech. What's my actual job? Silence. He looked at the floor. You've never once asked in 4 years, I said. You don't know what I do. You know what I pay. He stormed to the guest room and called someone, loud enough that the walls could listen. Mom, she's lost her mind, he said, stumbling over the pronoun he used when he was the victim. She's trying to kick me out. I rinsed my coffee mug and set it upside down on the rack. Out the window, the city blinked back, indifferent. I thought about the one bedroom at $1,800 and how quiet a room can feel when every object in it has been paid for without resentment. There are sentences you can't unsay. He had spoken his. I had answered mine. Phase 1 complete. 45 days to go. By Tuesday morning, the apartment had the quiet of a stage between scenes, props still in place, but meaning stripped away. Evan's sneakers by the door, his cologne loosening in the hall, the skyline pressing its face to the glass, curious. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and moved through a checklist I'd written neatly, because grief and logistics use the same muscles. Electricity. In my name. Autopay. Off in 45 days. Internet. Cancellation scheduled to land the same hour as my move out. Streaming. Every profile with his name. Gone. Jim. Guest privileges revoked. Saves me $50 a month. A silly line item, but clean cuts matter. The BMW had been my bad decision with a bow on it. The lease lived on my credit because his wouldn't hold it when we signed. The payment, $650 a month, folded into shared expenses I covered. When convenience blurred into love, I called the finance company and waited while a recorded voice told me about luxury, as if luxury was a personality trait. "Ma'am, how can I help?" a rep finally asked. "I need to remove my autopay," I said. "The authorized driver will be responsible directly." "You are the leaseholder?" "Yes." "There will be no penalties for removing autopay," she said. "Payments will be due on the 1st. Late fees apply after the 5th. "Understood." She read back the change. I felt the cord slacken and fall. At 2:06 p.m., my phone lit up. Evan. My card got declined at lunch with clients. Twice. Me. Bank error? Try your debit. Evan. I'm with the CMO, Avery. This is humiliating. Me. I'm sure he'll understand reimbursement cycles. Evan. Turn the card back on. We both know I'll expense it. Me. Corporate can float your business expenses. I can't. The dots came and went. Then the calls. 6, 10, 17. I turned the phone face down and reconciled a vendor invoice with the kind of care people reserve for prayers. He came home hot with indignation and the day's sweat, the door catching a draft behind him. "You made me look like an idiot," he said, dropping his bag with a thunk that tried to scare the floor. I took a breath. "No, Evan. Your company made you look underprepared by sending a senior director into a client meeting without an active corporate card." "You know they're still setting up my limits," he snapped. "So you chose today to cut me off?" "I chose today to stop paying your bills." His laugh was sharp, or maybe it broke on the way out. "This is financial abuse." I let his words hang long enough to hear how hollow they were. "It's called separation," I said. "Adults manage their own expenses." "You're petty, vindictive." He gestured at the view as if it were my accomplice. "We built this life together." "I built it," I said, calm as a ledger. "You curated it." Color rose in his face. "You're obsessed with the numbers." "Because numbers don't lie when people do." He took a new path. "I said something dumb in a car and now you're nuking our entire life?" "You didn't say something dumb," I said softly. "You said something true. You told me what you think you deserve. I'm agreeing with you." He stared, mouth open, searching for a script that used to work. "You can't just kick me out." "I'm not. The lease ends in 45 days because I declined to renew. You're welcome to stay until then as my guest. After that, I'm gone. If you want the apartment, you can apply to take over the lease." His laugh this time was meaner. "I will." "The building requires 3x rent gross income, $11,400 a month, and a 700 credit score," I said, delivering it like weather. "Last I checked, you don't meet either." "You checked?" he asked, insult blooming. "I asked the manager what anyone would need. Her name is Denise. She was very helpful." He stared at the floor tile as if it had betrayed him. Then, more quietly, "Why are you doing this?" "Because you wanted someone on your level," I said. "Levels have requirements." He flinched, and then he went to war the way modern men do, online. By Wednesday morning, his LinkedIn read like a manifesto stitched from hustle threads. "Sometimes your growth intimidates people who are comfortable with mediocrity. Choose growth anyway." On Instagram, a dusky photo of the city with the caption, "Leveling up isn't linear." On Facebook, a fishing line for realtors. "Any recommendations for luxury rentals?" "Considering upgrades." The comments bubbled with heart emojis and soft focus encouragements. "So proud of you. You deserve the best. Manifesting your dream penthouse." Reality arrived less photogenic. At 10:23 a.m., BMW Financial called him. At his desk, in his open office. He forwarded the voicemail to me as if it were a subpoena. BMW Financial. Automated. "We're calling to confirm the removal of autopay and remind you your payment of $650 is due on the 1st. Then a separate message. Evan, they called me at work. Me. They're efficient. Evan, this is spite. Me. This is adulthood. That afternoon, he cornered me in the kitchen with a new smile, the one that used to get him free cocktails and apologies. Look, he said, softening his voice, we've been good together. Don't you remember Napa? Don't you remember Sundays? We can fix this. Napa was lovely, I said. I paid for the tasting, the driver, and the hotel you tagged, as if it were comped. He blinked. We share. We did, I said, and then you announced you needed someone on your level. He edged closer, fingers brushing the counter near mine. Don't you miss us? Tell me 3 things about my job, I said, not unkindly. Specific things. You architect systems. What kind of systems? Silence. His lashes lowered and lifted. He tried another doorway. Your middle name is... Elise, I said. You've seen it on tax documents. He swallowed. Your hometown is... Golden, Colorado. My voice didn't rise, but something in him deflated. We've driven past the sign to my parents' house 3 times. He stepped back like the air had thinned. You're being cruel. I'm being clear. That evening, the realtor era began. A luxury agent named Colin Wu arrived with a brochure smile and a tablet. Evan toured him through the living room like a landlord, as if square footage could be inherited by attitude. So, I'm looking at comparable buildings, Evan said. I'm currently in the 3,800 range. I want something with a similar vibe. Colin's thumbs moved fast. Okay, what's your income? 125. And your credit score? It's improving, Evan said, which is not a number. Colin kept his smile, but it slid in the corners. Most of the buildings you're referencing require a 700 plus and a 40x rent multiple. 40 times the monthly rent? Evan asked, like the math was a personal attack. For approval without a guarantor, yes. At 125, you're at about 10.4 gross monthly. That caps you roughly around 2,600. Evan's laugh made even the wine glasses look away. That's discrimination. That's math, Colin said gently, because professionals get good at adding mercy to their tone when they deliver walls. He left his card on the counter and left with relief. Thursday bled into Friday. Evan worked on his spin like it was a side hustle. LinkedIn. Choosing mindful downsizing over excess, prioritizing experiences over square footage. The comments were concerned now, less confetti, more side-eye. Someone, anonymous, brave, or both, commented, interesting timing with Avery's recent apartment hunt. Evan deleted it. Then another from a former colleague of his. Funny, I remember when you chose to downsize from our company after your performance review. That one lasted 13 minutes before his feed went suspiciously quiet. At home, he oscillated. Anger, persuasion, silence, seduction, like a ceiling fan stuck between speeds. He tried lingerie I had bought him silhouettes for. Candles. Hands. I miss us, he said into my ear, his breath warmth and theater. Stop, I said, not unkindly. This is a tactic. He pulled back injured. You're ice. I'm clarity. He slept in the guest room again. I slept on resolve. By week's end, the building's lobby had started to recognize a new procession. Colin, then a cheaper agent who specialized in transitional neighborhoods, then none at all. Evan's messages got quieter, more jagged. Evan, the 20,500s want first, last, and security. That's $7,500. Me. That's standard. Evan. The 2000s are 45 minutes from my office. No remote. Me. That's a commute. Evan. The 1,500s are studios in bad areas. Me. Then you'll weigh safety, space, and budget, like adults do. On Friday night, a coworker of his, Bailey, invited herself over for drinks. Evan tried to pivot them to a bar. She insisted on seeing The Amazing Apartment. He cleaned like guilt could be Windexed. He staged the coffee table with art books he'd never opened. Where are all Avery's things? She asked when she stepped in, scanning the boxes stacked neatly in my office. She's reorganizing, he said. Everything okay? Bailey probed, too kind to be casual. We're separating, Evan said, with a shrug that auditioned as bravery. I've outgrown the relationship. Oh, she said, eyes grazing the ceiling height. So, you're keeping this place? I'm exploring options, he said lightly. But you can afford it, right? She smiled. You said your salary covers it. His laugh was a cracked plate. Of course. Just considering whether I want to stay. Memories, you know. She looked at me, Then at the lease folder Denise had asked me to initial, still on the counter near Colin's card. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. When the door closed behind her, Evan sagged against it. Everyone's going to think I'm a fraud. You curated that risk, I said. The algorithm rewards declarations. Reality sends invoices. He slid to the floor, passed a hand over his face, and whispered something I'd never heard him say without a camera pointed at him. I'm scared. I know, I said, and I did. Fear is a system call that rings the same in every body. I also knew fear wasn't a plan. He looked up, searching me for a softer version of myself. What am I supposed to do? Pay your car note, I said. Find a place you can afford. Call your bank, learn your budget. Ask your company to expedite your card or adapt your client dinners. And us? Us is already itemized, I said quietly. You just never looked at the line items. Outside, the city kept sparkling for anyone who needed it. Inside, I finished my checklist and set a reminder for the next phase. 40 days to go. The third week felt like the world had gone soundproof. Same city, same view, but everything quieter. Evan still left early, still returned with stories that grew less glossy each day. He'd stopped mentioning his startup coworkers by name, and the LinkedIn sermons that once came hourly were now cautious, edited things about alignment and values. Reality was leaking through the cracks, and I didn't need binoculars to see it. On Monday, my phone lit up with a notification from the BMW app. Payment overdue, 5 days. I didn't need to check who the driver was. By noon, Evan was pacing the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear. No, there's a mistake, he said, voice tight. The payment was supposed to be automatic. My partner handled that. Yes, I'll get it sorted. He hung up and threw his keys onto the counter. They called me at work, Avery. I was in an open office. Then they must really need their money, I said. He glared. You think this is funny? I think it's overdue. He muttered something about humiliation and pettiness before storming out. That afternoon, I got a message from Denise at the leasing office. Just confirming, Avery. Still set on vacating next month? Yes, I typed back. Noted. The new tenant application window will open in 10 days. New tenant, not Evan. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. By Wednesday, I could tell the luxury narrative was slipping. Evan was late on the BMW. He'd stopped posting photos from client dinners, and the curated candlelight selfies were replaced with moody quotes about resilience. He was unlearning how to pretend. Then Thursday came, the day his company finally noticed. Around 4, I heard his office call through the thin walls. He was pacing again, voice raised, trying to explain. What do you mean I can't cover it? My personal cards, under maintenance. The corporate ones still pending approval. Yes, of course I'll be reimbursed. A pause. Then, I can't float another dinner this month, okay? Just, can someone else take it? Later that night, he came home subdued. They're questioning my commitment, he said. Maybe they're questioning your liquidity, I said. He didn't laugh. He went straight to the guest room. On Friday, his latest LinkedIn post appeared, choosing mindful downsizing over excess. Success isn't about square footage. It's about self-awareness. The comments were less congratulatory this time. One coworker wrote, You were just bragging about that skyline view last month. Everything okay? Another, sharper. Didn't Avery handle that lease? He deleted both, but not fast enough. Screenshots have their own ecosystem. That night, he came into the kitchen while I was labeling boxes. You told them, didn't you? He said. I didn't tell anyone anything. Then how do people know about the lease? Maybe because you've spent 2 years turning our apartment into a backdrop, I said. People connect dots, especially when you give them half a picture. You're ruining my reputation. No, Evan, your numbers are. Numbers. He clenched his jaw. You used to be supportive. I used to believe we were building something. Turns out I was the foundation, and you just like the view. He slammed the door of the guest room hard enough to rattle the shelves. Saturday afternoon, he tried again, this time with a softer script. He knocked gently on my office door. Can we talk? I let him in. He stood there holding 2 wine glasses and a bottle of Malbec I'd bought last year. You used to love this one, he said. I still do. He poured 2 glasses and handed me one. We're acting like strangers. We are, I said. Come on, Avery. Don't you miss how it used to be? I miss thinking you respected me. He set his glass down. I do respect you. Then tell me 3 things about my job, I said. He blinked. You're an architect. Of what? Systems. Which systems? He frowned, searching. Data? Infrastructure? I tilted my head. And what's my middle name? Elaine? Elise. He exhaled, frustrated. I don't know why any of this matters. Because you've known me 4 years, I said quietly, and you know less about me than my project manager does after one quarterly call. He looked like he wanted to yell, but something in his face folded instead. You're really leaving? I already left, I said. I'm just finishing the paperwork. He nodded slowly, then pivoted again. I'm applying for a new place. Colin's helping. The luxury realtor? Yeah, he says I can make it work. With what? I told him about my income. And your credit? I told him it's improving. Did you give him a number? His silence was the number. Later that night, I overheard him on the phone. It's ridiculous, Colin. You're telling me I can't qualify because of a number? My lifestyle proves I can handle it. A pause. That's discrimination. Another pause. That's math? The call ended abruptly. By Sunday, the mood shifted from denial to panic. He paced the apartment with a realtor's printouts. The nice places all want first, last, and security, $7,500 up front. I don't have that kind of cash flow. I'm sure your level does, I said. He glared. You enjoy this, don't you? I enjoy peace, I said, and solvency. Midweek, a new post appeared. Evan Walker. Sometimes you outgrow spaces, not because you've failed, but because you've evolved. The comments were cautious now. One read, didn't you say this apartment reflected where you are in your career? Another, interesting how evolution looks like eviction. He deleted both, then made his account private. At home, he tried one more weapon, nostalgia. He came into my room late at night, wearing the robe I'd bought him for Christmas. The candlelight softened his face, almost rewrote him into the man I'd once defended. I miss us, he whispered. I miss how you made everything easy. I looked at him for a long time. You didn't miss me, I said. You miss being maintained. He flinched, then reached for my hand. I can change. You can, I said, but you won't do it here. He looked around the half-packed apartment, his reflection fractured in the skyline glass, and finally said the truest thing of our entire relationship. I don't know who I am without all this. I set down my book. Then it's time to find out. That night, he didn't sleep. I heard drawers open, papers shuffle, whispered phone calls to his mother. The next morning, there were realtors' cards spread like tarot on the counter and a notepad titled Plan B. But no plan ever started with truth. By Thursday, he'd stopped pretending we were fine. He sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through listings like a man watching his own reputation shrink pixel by pixel. Everything decent is out of reach, he muttered. Then lower your reach, I said. He looked up. You're cruel. No, I said. I'm consistent. He stood, jaw tight. Fine, you'll see. I'll figure something out. I nodded. I hope you do. He left, slamming the door behind him, and for the first time in weeks, the apartment didn't echo. It exhaled. I opened my planner and drew a clean line through the next milestone. 30 days to go. By the 4th week, the apartment sounded different. No music spilling from the Bluetooth speaker, no scent of cologne drifting down the hall. The silence had texture now, thin, papery, as if it might crumble if you breathed too hard. Evan was unraveling in increments. He still left for work, dressed like a man who had somewhere important to be, but the swagger had hollowed out. His BMW sat in the garage, unpaid, gleaming like denial. He was on borrowed time, and I think he knew it. On Friday, he knocked on my office door with that brittle smile. We need to talk. What about? My parents want to come by. For what? He hesitated. To help us sort this out. I almost laughed. Evan, this isn't a customer complaint you can escalate. There's no us to sort. They just want to talk. Then they can talk. But understand something. I'm not hosting a tribunal. Saturday morning arrived humid and bright. I was labeling kitchen boxes when the doorbell rang. Standing there were Marjorie, Howard, and Sydney Walker, his mother, father, and younger sister. They came armed with casseroles and concern. Avery, dear, Marjorie said, in the tone people use when they're trying to sound reasonable while already taking sides. We're just here to talk. Of course, I said, stepping aside. The living room still looked staged from Evan's failed realtor showings, so they settled neatly onto the gray couch he loved to brag about. Howard went first. Look, Avery, sometimes relationships hit rough patches. We all say things we don't mean. I set down a box cutter. I agree, but some sentences reveal things we just hadn't admitted yet. Marjorie frowned. Evan's been miserable. He says you're making things difficult. I'm enforcing the lease, I said evenly, and the lease is mine. Sydney snorted. God, you sound like a lawyer. He told us you make less than he does anyway, so what's the big deal? I turned to Evan, who had gone very still. Did he? Sydney caught his expression, realizing too late she'd thrown him to the wolves. How much did he say I make? I asked. She shrugged. He said around 150. Try 240, I said, and that's not including bonuses. Their faces shifted in unison, like a family portrait re-rendering itself. Marjorie blinked. Evan said he told us. I know what he told you. I folded my arms. He also told his co-workers he pays for this apartment. He told his friends I'm intimidated by his success. Truth seems to be optional for him lately. Howard cleared his throat. Still, Avery, you're leaving him in a bad spot. That doesn't feel right. He left himself there, I said quietly. I'm just no longer standing underneath him to break the fall. Sydney crossed her arms. You'll regret this. Jess, Evan's ex, said he's a catch. I smiled faintly. Then she's welcome to catch him again. Someone on his level, right? Howard looked pained. What will it take for you to reconsider? A time machine, I said. One that goes back to before he told me who he really was. Marjorie's voice softened. He's scared, Avery. He doesn't want to move back home. Then he should have treated home better when he had one. Evan sat silent through it all, eyes glassy, mouth drawn tight. When they finally left, he didn't follow them out. He just sat there on the couch, staring at nothing. That night, he tried pleading again. My family thinks I'm a failure, he said. You're not, I said. You make 125. That's success in any zip code that doesn't demand marble countertops. But I can't afford anything decent. You can afford plenty, just not this, not the BMW, not the skyline. But there's life outside these windows, Evan. People survive it. He shook his head. You don't get it. This is my image, my brand. I looked at him, really looked. Your brand was built on my credit and my rent payments. It's time you learn how to build on your own. He pressed his hands over his face. Please, one more month. Just give me 1 month to figure it out. No. I'll die before I move back to my parents. That's a choice, I said, and you're free to make it. He dropped his hands. How are you so cold? I'm not cold, I said. I'm just done being your ATM. The words landed, solid and final. 5 days before move-out, he found something. A studio apartment 40 minutes from his office, $650 a month, street parking, thin walls. He showed me the listing like it was an obituary. It's horrible, Avery. The bathroom's tiny, no closet space. The neighbors blast music at night. It sounds perfect, I said. Exactly your level. Stop saying that, he snapped. You said it first. He stared at me, and for the first time in weeks, the bravado fell completely away. I hate that you're enjoying this. I'm not, I said softly, but I am learning from it. He didn't respond. The next day, he signed the lease on the studio, returned the BMW, voluntary repossession. His credit dropped like a heartbeat on a flat line. When I saw the notification that the car had been surrendered, I didn't smile. I just closed my laptop and wrote 3 words in my planner. He's really gone. The night before I moved out, I walked into the empty living room. The city outside looked the same, lights blinking, cars threading through streets like steady veins, but the room felt smaller, truer. Evan was in the kitchen, hunched over his phone, typing something furiously. What now? I asked. Nothing, he said, not looking up. Later I saw it, his LinkedIn post. Sometimes life forces you to simplify. Minimalism is the new luxury. I'm embracing a sustainable lifestyle focused on what really matters, authenticity and growth. The comments were brutal. Bailey Trent. Didn't you post 6 months ago that luxury is a mindset? Old colleague. Is this the same apartment from your stories? Looks different. His CMO. Glad to see you're settling into your new space, Evan. He deleted it within the hour. When he came out of the kitchen, his face was pale. You happy now? I didn't write your post, I said. He grabbed his jacket. You destroyed me. No, I said. You did that yourself. I just stopped editing the story. He left. The door shut behind him, and the silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt earned. The next morning, I carried my last box to the car. Denise from the leasing office met me at the elevator. Heading out? She asked. Finally. Good luck, Avery. Not many people handle things this cleanly. I smiled. Clean's the only way it sticks. As the elevator doors closed, I saw Evan coming down the hall, phone in hand, face set in that same performance-ready mask. He didn't look at me. I didn't need him to. 2 days later, I was gone. New place. New quiet. A view half as grand, but a peace twice as deep. And Evan, he had what he wanted. Someone on his level. Himself. 5 days left turned into none. The first week after the move felt like waking up from a noise you hadn't realized was constant. My new apartment was smaller, sure, but the silence wasn't absence. It was room to think. The floor creaked honestly, the rent cleared without resentment, and the windows framed not skyline but sky. Sometimes peace looks like less square footage. Evan's name still ghosted through my notifications. He hadn't blocked me yet. He wanted an audience. His digital life was running parallel to his real one, both wobbling. The first clue came through Bailey. She DM'd me a screenshot one morning. Evan Walker, embracing intentional minimalism. My new studio is small, but growth often happens in confined spaces. Success isn't about what you own, it's about who you become. #mindful living. Authenticity. Below it, the comments were merciless. Former coworker. Didn't you say last quarter you'd never live without a concierge again? Old classmate. Guess luxury is a mindset hit its sequel. Someone anonymous. Growth looks a lot like eviction. He deleted the post within 20 minutes. But the internet doesn't delete memory. It just hides it behind screenshots. That same day, Bailey spotted him at the office kitchen, reheating instant noodles in a company mug. He looks smaller, she said when we met for coffee later. Not physically, just deflated. I nodded. Deflation's the natural result of hot air meeting reality. She laughed but didn't disagree. By week 2, the BMW was officially gone, repossession logged. He texted me from a new number. Evan, they towed the car. I had to take the bus to work. I get home at 9 now. I hate this. I didn't reply. Later that week, Evan, I know you don't want to talk, but I'm sorry. I lost perspective. Still no response. Some apologies are really just bids for rehearsal. Meanwhile, my life adjusted to a rhythm that didn't require justification. I woke at 6. I ran. I coded. I paid bills early out of habit, not obligation. I learned the pleasure of coming home to a space that didn't echo someone else's ego. On a Thursday evening, I met Lucas Park, a software engineer from another firm, at a cafe near my building. He'd messaged me after a mutual friend introduced us at a conference months ago. Back then, I hadn't been available, at least not emotionally. Now I was curious. He was thoughtful, quiet in the ways that counted. He asked about my projects, listened when I spoke, and when the check came, he said simply, "Split?" I smiled. "If we're talking ratio, I make more than you." "Then you can buy dessert," he said. It wasn't charm, it was equality, easy, unperformed. We went out again that weekend. He insisted on paying that time. Balance. I could get used to that word meaning something again. 3 weeks into my new life, I ran into Bailey at a coffee shop downtown. She spotted me first. "Avery," she said, dropping into the seat across from mine. "You look different." "Less fluorescent lighting, more peace," I said. She grinned. "I saw Evan last week. He's telling people you financially abused him." I stirred my coffee. "And people believe that?" "Not really," she said. Once he asked to borrow $20 for lunch, the narrative collapsed. I laughed then, quiet but from somewhere deep. "How poetic." She leaned in. "He still says he makes more than you." "Let him," I said. "He needs the illusion more than I need the correction." Bailey smirked. "You know, someone should turn your story into a screenplay." "Someone probably already has," I said. "They just changed the names." That evening, I came home to a text from an unknown number. No name, just words that tried to sound humble. "Evan, I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I got caught up in the image. The money went to my head. I threw away the best thing I had. My studio has roaches. I miss you." I stared at the message for a long moment, then locked my phone and set it face down. Silence filled the room again, steady, peaceful. I didn't need to respond. There's no closure in going back to the fire just to see if it still burns. The next morning, Bailey sent another screenshot. Evan's LinkedIn was back. Humility is the greatest teacher. Rock bottom became my foundation. Building back better, stronger, realer. Growth. Authenticity. New chapter. A comment below. Someone from his old job. Is this why you asked me for gas money yesterday? The post was gone within an hour. Sometimes I still think about that sentence, the one that started everything. Maybe I should date someone on my level. At the time, it sounded like arrogance. Now, it sounds like prophecy. He did. He's with someone exactly on his level, himself. And me? I learned that competence isn't a quiet hum. It's the song you play when the noise finally stops. The lease break fee was $7,600. Best money I ever spent.